representing the City of Dunedin. I'd like to go around the room now and allow everybody the opportunity to introduce themselves. And let's start with you this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan Saraki, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
Josh Schulman, St. Petersburg.
Patty Reed, Vice Mayor of Pinellas Park.
Good morning, I'm the CEO, Brad Miller of PSTA.
Thank you all very much. And so I'd like to open it up to public comment. Is there anybody here or online that would like to speak about anything that is not currently on the agenda? I am not hearing none. I'm getting a no nod for online, so we will bring it back to the board. Action items 3A. Approve the July 21st, 2023 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the July 21st, 2023 minutes.
Second.
I have a question about the minutes.
Yes, sir.
Do we normally also show members who are absent on the minutes?
Yeah, did we forget somebody?
Is Brian Scott a member of the committee?
Oh, was he, well, he was here last month though, wasn't
He
he?
was here last month.
He was not, he was traveling.
Oh,
Well, his name's not listed as present,
oh.
and I don't recall.
We'll
I
look at
I
that.
noticed that he's not here today, so I just
Is
wanted.
he an alternate or a member?
He is a
He's
member.
an alternate.
Alternate.
He's an alternate, so am
Oh,
I.
he's an alternate.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause him
Okay,
and I
thank
voted
you,
as
we'll
alternate.
get that,
But do you show,
Well,
you don't have
he's-
to show the alternates, because
we
we don't
usually-
have to be here.
we usually put him on as being there, so that was just an oversight.
Okay. So with that acknowledged, so do we have an amended minutes then?
Yes, they will be amended.
Right, all righty, and so we've got a first, did we get a second?
Yes.
Okay,
Second.
back to the first, do you accept that friendly amendment? To acknowledge?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, just want to make sure everything's legal.
Sure, sure.
All
All
right.
in favor, sir?
Yeah, are we ready for that?
Yep.
Thank you. You have to appreciate that.
You're the boss.
Do we, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, those opposed? Ayes have it, and that motion passes unanimously. Yes, sir.
And before we begin, I'd like to make a motion to add on to today's agenda. And it's an email that we received regarding a 50-cent fare that will begin being charged this coming Monday for the Sunrunner. And the exact title of it was PSTA to implement a 50-cent fare on beach service using the Sunrunner effective Monday, August 21st, 2023. And I'd like to add that today's agenda under, as an information item that we could discuss it and you could explain some things to us, Mr.
Sure.
And
I'd accept that. Do I need a motion on that? Do you have a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Do I have a motion, a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we will add that on to information
Number
items.
B.
Thank you, sir, very much.
This is another difficult.
All righty. I'm sorry, I should have grabbed that under public comment, my apologies. Item 3B, amendments to agreements with the City of St. Pete for Sunrunner. Abhikesh, Director of Project Management, will walk us through this and any action items.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Finance Committee members. I'm Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management. And speaking of Sunrunner, this item 3B and 3C are both related to the Sunrunner project. So I might refer both of those interchangeably. Both of those items are for action. So item 3B is to amend the agreements that we have with the City of St. Petersburg to use their savings, their portion of the savings towards other improvements along the Sunrunner. Now, if you all recall, the Sunrunner project was successfully completed under budget, and we would like to utilize the city's portions of those savings towards improvements that we talked about here with the committee and with the board. There are three sets of improvements that the city would like to pursue with the savings, their portion of the savings. Number one is the station close to the pier. Number two is the fiber connection, the fiber optic connections at the downtown stations in St. Pete. And then the third one are the art panels, not only at the new station, the new proposed station at the pier, but also 2 existing stations that did not get art in downtown. So the city would like to incorporate art in those 2 stations as well. So those are the 3 enhancements that the city would like to utilize their portion of the savings towards. So this agreement would need to be amended so that we can use the city's funding towards those 3 improvements. A kind of a minor portion of that is also we will be amending the design and construction agreement with the city. That just allows us to coordinate better with the city staff as we incorporate those 3 improvements as part of the Sunrunner project. So item 3B is basically amending the funding agreement with the city. And the second part is amending the design and construction agreement with the city for those improvements that I mentioned. I should also note that we will be coming back to this committee once we're ready to issue an award to the contractor who would actually build the station by the pier. So this item is just to amend the agreement for now. And then item 3C would be the artist agreement that is related to this item 3B. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions for item 3B.
Are there any questions for item 3B? Just amending the agreement?
The city council's gonna take this up.
Right, Mr. Chair, also I wanted to mention that the city council is taking this agreement to their council tomorrow as well.
Well, everybody else is taken, and I don't know whether this is this item or the next item under artists, but is there any type of maintenance plan for any artwork that is done?
Yes, we do have
And funds
maintenance,
available?
and that is all covered under the operations and maintenance budget that we had already assigned for the Sunrunner. It's basically no different than our regular Sunrunner stations that do not have art. So that's how the artists also designed the art panels, so it's easier to maintain. So it's no additional cost for maintenance for art panels.
As long as there is a plan. Because art is wonderful on day one, but if you don't have a plan to maintain it or the funds to maintain it, then it starts to fade and break down and no longer serves its purpose. So good for them. All right, any other questions?
Move approval?
All right, we've got a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes. That was item 3B. And so now on to 3C.
So 3C, Mr. Chair, Finance Committee members, this again relates back to the funding agreement. So as part of the funding agreement, we will engage with the artist to design the artwork for the pier station as well as the 2 existing Sunrunner stations. So this agreement is actually with the artist so that they can complete that work using city funding. So no PSDA funding is involved here. It's all funded by the city of St. Petersburg.
Fantastic. And is this also going before the city council tomorrow?
No, this is not going to the city council. This is an agreement just between us and the artist, so the city is not, they're not party to this.
No cost is music to my ears. I make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing and hearing this morning. Well, that kind of changes my descriptives and some violent. So we are all the way to information items. 4A, at the request of PSTA board members, Whitney Kaiser. I'm assuming that Whitney is here this morning. All right. Director of Marketing Communications will give an update on the overall appearance of PSTA bus fleet.
Thank
Good
you,
morning.
Chair. Good morning, Finance Committee. Hope everyone's doing well. Like you mentioned, I'm here to talk about our beautiful fleet appearance this morning. So we're basically going to cover many different things. It's an informational item to update you all on the overall appearance of our fleet, including our revenue-generating buses, PSTA promotional wraps, and our fleet rebranding efforts. So first, we want to start with just a high-level overview of our overall fleet makeup. So we currently have in our fleet 138 vehicles dedicated to our advertising revenue, as well as 20 trolleys for advertising that are included in that. Then we have our Sunrunner vehicles, which we currently do not advertise on, and we have 24 that are reserved for our rebranding efforts, which we'll talk about later, and then 12 that are reserved for our PSTA promotional buses. So let's talk first about our bus advertising. So as you might recall, PSTA procured a new contract for exterior advertising sales in 2021. So prior to this, the fleet was allowed to do full bus ads. And we also had not so much of a large diversity of advertisers on our vehicles. So we had a lot of full bus wraps. A lot of them were really from 1 or 2 areas of advertisers. And when we actually did our procurement in 2020, or it was in 2021, we said we would no longer allow full bus wrap ads unless it was a PSTA promotional bus advertisement. And we wanted a larger diversity of advertisers and more local advertisers. So we're very happy to report that we have accomplished a much larger, diverse group of advertisers on our buses and have made the advertisement smaller. We can still do, of course, full side advertising, if you remember or recall, but we can no longer do full wraps. Now, in addition to the diversity of the ads, we also wanted to take a look at how the revenue was going to be affected. And as you can see, this chart on your presentation shows the previous contract and what we were receiving by revenue for each contract year, and then our current contract and how much we're receiving. So back in 2018, 2019, it was around 592,000, then 649,000, then 679,000, and then the previous year, we actually jumped up to 784,000 when we started in the first year of the new contract. And then this last bar here is the current year, which will increase. It's not for a full contract year, so that's going to be even higher. So we're really excited to say that not only are we bettering the PSTA brand by diversifying our advertisers, by eliminating full bus wrap advertising, but we're also bringing in more revenue with our new contract. So we're really excited about that. Next category is our PSTA promotional wraps. So let's talk first about the selection of our promotional wraps and how this works. So PSTA's marketing department, we are very selective of the wraps that we produce so we can maximize our inventory available, of course, for revenue generating advertising. So we have a few long-term bus wraps promoting specific PSTA programs and services. And additionally, we have 3 buses available for our inventory for events, holidays, and campaigns. So the selection of these wraps is very specific. So we want to make sure that it is promoting a specific PSTA service offering. And if it's for an event or a holiday, we want to make sure that the magnitude of the event, including both the community impact and possibly the maximizing the impressions of who's going to see those buses at events. And that it also is in alignment to our PSTA's organizational scorecard and sustainable strategic plan goals. So we have things in there, of course, like improving community sentiment, increasing ridership, promoting a healthy community and workforce, including ensuring PSTA reaches low-income and other marginalized communities for outreach and engagement. And also we want to make sure that these wraps remain relevant for a minimum, ideally for a minimum of 6 months, typically when we do them. So our long-term promotional wraps that we currently have, we have 6 buses dedicated to our express bus shoulder authorization service, and 3 buses to our 300X Airport Express service. So those are 9 dedicated to services that we provide. And then for next fiscal year, we've planned 6 holiday and event wraps. You may have seen some of these at some events that you've probably attended, or of course riding around Pinellas County that we've done in the past. And this fiscal year, we're including some new ideas that we've received. So we're really excited about, of course, we'll do our Leadership PSTA class project bus. So we usually dedicate a bus wrap to whatever community impact project the Leadership PSTA group is doing. We're also going to be doing, of course, a Veterans Day bus wrap. We're really excited about the new Veterans Day promotion. We want to make sure that we do a wrap that celebrates that veterans will be able to ride for free come November. And then this year, we're doing something new. We're going to do a Happy Holidays bus wrap. There's going to be more to come with that promotion, but that's something new we haven't done before. And then MLK Day, of course, for the MLK Parade. We always typically have done a bus for that, as well as the Pride Parade in St. Pete. And then this year, we're also going to be doing an Independence Day bus wrap to celebrate the 4th of July. So be on the lookout for those. And then the third category I want to talk about is our bus rebranding. So many of you probably know, I've come to you before in the past about how excited I am about our bus rebranding and having a uniform look to all of our buses. So you might remember back in October 2021, we presented an info item to the board about our PST brand refresh, including this rendering of what our new buses, new design will look like. So this project launched with the idea really of reflecting the personality of the community and really increasing the brand image for PSTA. I am pleased to give you an update on the project status. We have 24 buses in the existing fleet that are scheduled for the rebranding, and 62 new buses, new electric buses that will be delivered with this brand scheme. So overall, I think we're going to have, I believe it's 86 total buses that are going to be, let's see, yes, 80. So in 5 years, we'll have 86 buses with the new rebranding. No one is more excited about this than I am. So we are really excited to have a beautiful, clean, new-looking fleet. So that is just a general overview of an update on our fleet appearance and the direction that we're heading in the future. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
I'm excited too.
Yes.
How excited are you?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question about the promotional wraps.
Sure.
Have we considered doing anything for the schools for twofold? One, increasing awareness that kids can ride our bus
Sure.
for free, and then also increasing awareness for drivers to know to stop for the bus, for the other school buses. So when we talk about things that have a long 6-month time frame, have
Right.
impact, can increase ridership, it seems like that is a program that we'd like to promote more so.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's in the promotional the promotional ones, or if it's like a back to school instead of a holiday event. If there's a back to school bus item that can be done, but
Absolutely. I think that's an interesting idea. We could definitely look into that.
Are you suggesting like a safety message?
I think you could. I think you hit a number of different items, right? So, like and I'm not an artist at all, but it would seem like the sides could talk about like riding the bus and have kids on the bus on the outside, showing them on the bus, maybe looking like a school bus sort of, but then on the back also talking to drivers about stopping for kids walking and things like that. So something we've talked about at the Forward Pinellas, the School Transportation Safety Committee, was trying to increase awareness for drivers as well. And so I think something like that might be able to have a twofold impact.
Sure. To increase awareness about the fact that students and staff can ride for free, but also the safety aspect.
Correct.
Right.
Right there's right now there's a Facebook caption that's going around. It's got a school bus with its red stop sign out, and the caption is basically "stop." It's not "please, would you mind consider."
Right.
It is "you need to stop."
Sure.
So it's something along, but certainly partnering with our schools in that regard. Although I guess just for information and clarification, the students don't ride. The students ride for free, but it's not a free bus ride. Right? We have a partnership with the
Right.
school system.
Correct.
So, for that. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that was it.
Anything else? A little bit for me, and about the Airport Express.
Sure.
What's our communicating or marketing? We can take it from here to the airport and back. Is there anything, and is there any marketing relationship with the airport to where, or even outside that, into regular markets that know that people flying into Tampa Airport can this is an option for them, that they don't need a car.
Sure, so we've actually been working with the airport to get the word out mostly with employees at the airport, because it's a really great option for people who work at the airport. But because of the different service hours, as far as people, those like flying in, that's definitely something that we can look at to increase, to market even heavier at the airport to that audience as well. But our first target audience is employees working at the airport. That's a great point.
And I believe it, we have, we do work at the airport, and they do have it on their website. I don't know how many people look at the destination airport that they're traveling to's website, but it's on there. And then, I'm pretty sure, haven't we done stuff with Visit St. Pete Clearwater? That they've advertised it?
We have, yes, we've partnered with Mississippi Clearwater to promote a lot of our services, and we've looked into, you know, when you're at baggage claim and there's like the billboards and things there, but they're a little bit pricey, so we haven't gone in that direction, but we are definitely looking into increasing awareness for that service.
Well, and the problem with advertising at the airport is usually people are aware of their travel plans well before they actually arrive. You know,
Right.
people don't just show up in an airport and go, now what?
Exactly.
I'm here now. It's like, rent a car, is there a camel? I mean, right, so they already know what they're gonna do, so.
Sure.
It would be hitting them before.
Apparently you've never traveled with me.
I was gonna say, my husband might disagree.
And we're gonna keep it that way, if that's how you travel.
All these flight cancellations, and everybody gets there and they're like, how do we get somewhere now?
I don't know how to
Horrible.
talk about this next thing, but since you brought it up there under special events and things, I talked to Brad and even mentioned it to Debbie. I believe until we've actually spent the money that it still can be reallocated and we can still do things. And this whole budget process is bothering me a little bit, and a lot of it is, I'll take ownership on my own vote. But writing Sunrunner for free, we extended that. Staff was very upfront about this is what it's gonna cost you. Staff has been very upfront about the veterans and what it's gonna cost us for veterans to ride for free. What I did not do as a member of this board was take that to really understand what that loss of revenue meant. And the fact that it means losing routes really does bother me. And especially with the veterans, not that we all don't support our veterans, and this marketing plan is wonderful, but the idea that we're giving free rides to one segment of our population to actually take away rides from another part of our population is confusing to me, and especially when those routes that we may be losing, I understand they're not lost yet, those routes that we may be losing might be routes that veterans would take. So in one aspect, we're offering free rides, but then we're taking the route away. There's that potential. And so one, I don't know what to do with my thought process. I'm never one to want to surprise anybody or any board with, hey, this is it. So I thought that for me, this was a better conversation to have at the Finance Committee. And depending on what this board wants to do with Jeff's thought, bring it forward to the board, or maybe I'd take it to the board myself, I don't know. But it just seems to me that because it was brought up, and I don't know that this is the right spot for it, but because it was brought up under special events and we're now gonna market something, now we're gonna start to spend money on something that's free, only to take routes away from somewhere else. And I just don't think that's why we exist. And so I don't know that I've got a motion. I'm just kind of opening that up for conversation. And if it dies right here, it dies right here. Maybe I'll think of something else, but I just at least wanted to bring that up since it was part of Whitney's presentation. Yes?
So you're talking about promoting the Veterans Day wrap and paying for that and taking routes away on the other side.
Only because part of the presentation was not just supporting Veterans Day, which I believe in, but it was supporting veterans riding for free on PSDA. And if we're spending money on that, it more solidifies that, yes, this is what we're doing. I fully understand a vote has been taken. I get that. I was not at that meeting, But I'll be honest and say, most likely, had I been at that meeting, I would have voted yes. I don't know if I would have voted to complete Veterans Ride for free. But that is the way it went down. I support the board's decision on that. So because we're tying Veterans Day into Veterans Riding for Free, more solidifies that that is the direction that PSTA is going. And I'm just wondering if there isn't a way to circle back, and nobody likes to circle back. I get that. Make a vote, you want to move forward, but if there's not an opportunity to circle back, have that discussion again, now knowing it means we're gonna lose routes, or the possibility of losing routes is worth another vote, worth a discussion. I don't know.
My thought would be to circle back at the planning committee meeting, right? So we're gonna talk about service adjustments at our next meeting.
Okay.
And that's also where we're talking about the budgetary process for the upcoming year. So I think that would be a good place. I mean, obviously, I don't want to stifle a conversation, but certainly that would be a place to have that conversation, potentially bring something back to the board. Yeah.
Any other comments? Because I can't disagree with that.
Just a question. What did we say was the annual loss for the fares being free on the Sunrunner?
Oh, 200,000.
Annually?
200,000, yeah.
I mean, we've got almost 100,000 rides a month at $225 a fare. That's $200,000 a month.
Yes.
People have passes and,
Yeah.
people have monthly passes and day passes. And they're not just
Yeah,
using, they're not just using, not all 100,000 of those each month are brand new, full fare, would be full fare riders.
Well, I get that, but 200,000 annually seems awfully thin.
We factored in a ridership drop once instituting the fare. We also netted out the switch of people from Central Avenue Trolley, which is free in St. Petersburg. They would switch back to that, so then there would be less. And the Route 18 and some other adjustments, but yeah, I mean, we can show you. We can present the calculation.
Just seems awfully low to me. With that many rides, now I'm sure rides will go down when we start charging fares, but that just still seems like a lot of. It seems like it should be higher than that. Maybe it isn't, but it just seems like it should be. The math doesn't work for me, but.
And yeah, we can provide that, our estimates. And again, it's similar to Commissioner Chair Gow's comment on the veterans program. Of course, we have an estimate. At this point, with the board unanimously voting for it, we are moving forward with implementing it, and it's my goal to track it very carefully and see if our estimate is way off, or how much it really will cost PSTA. I'm not really.
Quick question. What vote are you talking about?
The veteran.
It was not unanimous.
Okay.
There
I
were
apologize.
two no's. Myself
Second
and
vote?
Commissioner Oliver.
No, he's correct. He's correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
I know, and right, and I know they're all estimates, but during the budget process.
Yeah.
Because of
I mean, it's
those
all
estimates,
estimates,
we are literally cutting routes. I know not literally. It's being seriously discussed, and there's the potential for that. So it's not like we're estimating losing routes, we're talking about losing routes, versus, our estimates on this loss of revenue might vary. So we are actually making literal decisions based on estimates. And those literals we're talking about are people. So not just a product line. Get rid of a product line, and it's people. That's why we're here. But yes.
No, well, you finish it.
Oh well, yeah, I don't want to preach. I don't want to get a pedestal. This was in my head. It was bothering me since the last conversation we had. And so I didn't know what to do with my thoughts and feelings, because I'm analytical, but I most of the time I speak on the emotion side, and so I just don't know what to do.
I'm with you. Two things, and this would be for Debbie. Debbie, we have a calculated fare that what we get isn't it something like 81 cents or?
It's somewhere, depending on where we're at, but around a little over 90 cents per ride on an average. Because we have programs like the TD program that reduces the fare that someone is paying. So that's why it's not making sense in your head, Commissioner. Not everybody's paying $2.25.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but just to keep the math easy, if we had 100,000 rides a month at $2, that's $2.4 million, and we're saying we're losing 90% of that? I mean, it just seems.
When your
like a
average
very-
fare, and I'll just for giggle's sake, if your average fare is $1, based on all the programs that we run here in Pinellas County and through
Right.
PSTA,
Right.
you're going to be losing $200,000.
I think the point I was trying to get across, 2.25, which is a day fare, and it's a full fare, 2.25 is not our average, fare based on all of the programs that we do have. And one other thing I wanted to make sure I'm clear on this, that this board has not yet voted to make the Sunrunner continue to be free.
No, in fact, they voted to actually, it stops in October.
Right.
Right, we're gonna start, right, but it was part of the budget conversation.
Right. Okay.
But unless there's any questions, I think Commissioner Schulman had a good point that maybe the planning session, since that's where kind of the budget conversation takes place, and I'll bring it up there as well. So unless there's any questions.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So Debbie, so you're saying that when we start charging money, we're gonna lose all that many riders? Because if we lose 200, it's gonna drop that much if we were to charge that, is his question.
Well, if we charge our normal fare on the route, we expect to lose some riders who will probably, or they may just go to a different route to get where they're going.
Yeah, then we do have the calculation that we worked out with the city. I just can't seem to find it. If Heather is around or if watching, she could send it to me, that'd be great. She'll be here at the next meeting.
So, Wendy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, right, we're kind of at the end of the information items, so maybe we'll pick up Commissioners.
Oh, I gotta add it.
Inserted, what was your item again?
Yeah, it's, to discuss, the emails that we received like 5 days ago regarding effective this coming Monday, which is, 5 days from now, 4 or 5 days from now, that, I'll read it. I'm sure you all got it. Effective Monday, August 21st, 2023, a low of 50-cent fare payable by contactless payment, debit, credit card, / credit card, and Flamingo fares will be required to head westbound towards the beach, starting at First Avenue North and 32nd Street Sunrunner Station. All other Sunrunner travel eastbound away from the beach and in downtown St. Pete will remain free to all customers. And then it goes on to saying the proposed 2024 budget, the city of St. Pete, if they do agree, which they've indicated, that the mayor's indicated, that that's plugged into the budget, that they're going to help with $200,000
Right.
for 2024 to keep that fare free. And to go on with this, and Brad, hopefully you can give us some enlightenment on this, but we talked, one point is keeping PSTA Sunrunner services successful and transformative is the best transit service in the history of the entire Tampa Bay region, and I totally agree with that. And then 2, I'm on the fence on this, reducing the number of homeless individuals who are using it to access the beach, to illegally sleep there at night and at other times, causing other problems. And I do see that the mayor was copied on this email to St. Pete, and also Sheriff Gualtieri, so I'm sure there was some kind of
Oh, yeah.
And maybe you can again enlighten us on the board. I want, we all got this email, all the board members, and I want, there's some sticking points on here that I'd like to know about.
Sure,
But maybe you go ahead, Brad.
Okay, well, good morning, and I'll try to summarize the last 2 weeks as best as possible. At the PSA board meeting last month, you remember, we had some citizens come from St. Pete Beach and make claims, make claims that the crime of different kinds of crime was increasing on St. Pete Beach dramatically, all due to people riding the Sunrunner for free to the beach, and then riding out there and committing various crimes. And now I'm trying to remember. Right after that meeting, right after that meeting, I had my first. It was before the meeting. I had my first conversation with Sheriff Galtieri, and he had heard from these same citizens that they were very upset out of the number of. And he recognized, he acknowledged that it was homeless people, unhoused individuals that are riding the Sunrunner over to St. Pete Beach. And he echoed what the citizens echoed, that charging a fare would solve the problem, would keep the homeless from riding so often to the beach. So, and as you remember at the meeting, we said we would work with, we wanted to find a solution with the sheriff, work with the sheriff to try to keep Sunrunner successful. Meanwhile, the service is free. The service is free today, and the PSA board has voted to have the service remain free until November 1st, when we institute full fares on the Sunrunner. That was the vote. I also, as you pointed out, the mayor of St. Petersburg's FY24 proposed budget, and this city council has been very supportive of this so far in their discussions, not approved yet, but includes $200,000 to pay PSDA for the fares, to buy down the fares and keep essentially Sunrunner at no cost. And the citizens of St. Pete Beach certainly knew that as well. And the sheriff knew that as well. The sheriff immediately added a large amount of sheriff deputies to patrol the beach, St. Pete Beach, and that was, as he told me, a temporary measure that he was willing to implement, but not sustainable for the long haul. And he needed my help in finding a solution to stopping the, in his mind, endless flow, unlimited flow of folks coming from St. Petersburg to the beach. We did a lot of data analysis using some of the sheriff's data, and presented last week at the executive committee. We presented our data, and there is no evidence there. At least what we have found is there is no evidence that crime has actually, true crime has increased at all in St. Pete Beach from last year. What is true, at least from the data that we've gotten from the sheriff's office and our own observation, is that the number of homeless riding to St. Pete Beach has really grown because of the ease for everybody of riding the Sunrunner. That is true. And what is also true is that a lot of, every night, homeless individuals ride the Sunrunner for free to very late at night, and then they go out onto the beach and they sleep there. And then they get up in the morning and they get back on the Sunrunner and they ride back to St. Pete. And that violates a St. Pete Beach ordinance. So the sheriff has been down there for now, this is his third week, he's got deputies down there, and they issue trespasses, and then if a person violates the trespass, which means you cannot go back there, and if the sheriff sees you again, then he arrests you. He's been arresting people, especially as they come off the beach after sleeping there at night. And it's been a real issue for him and, and our own staff. So we added a bunch of our own private security that we have to ride the Sunrunner as well, and try to work with our riders to have them understand that they are not permitted to sleep there. This was going on all last week. We presented this information to the executive committee, and at the last Wednesday, the goal was, let's keep monitoring it. It seems like once we added our security that the number went way down and things were going better. The day after the executive committee, I got a call from Sheriff Galtieri, who reported that it was not getting better. That despite all of this information that I had received, that it was getting better, it has not. The amount of homeless individuals that his deputies were reporting continued. Maybe they were not getting as arrested as much because they had learned that they can't hang out there. They were just riding the Sunrunner to stay out of the heat or whatever. But the number was staying the same. He also reported to me, meanwhile, I had had a number of conversations with Mayor Welch about his budget proposal and about his thoughts on this. Sheriff Galtieri told me that he had talked to Mayor Welch and that the Mayor Welch understood that something needed to be done. Some kind of fair or initiative to require Sunrunner riders to do something. His idea sort of was a zero fare. Like, you could have an app or something, and then it wouldn't cost you any money, but you'd have to do it. And that would provide a limiting step to keeping unhoused from riding over there to the beach. As you know, we have a partnership with Directions for Living, this nonprofit in Pinellas County that works exclusively, it works with the homeless. And we have a partnership to not just kick the homeless out of our transportation centers, but actually work with the Directions for Living to try to get them to not be homeless, to get them into programs or homeless shelters and things like that. So we met with the executive director of that and talked with Miss April Lott about what options we have. And she had some good constructive ideas, but essentially she was supportive of instituting some kind of nominal, kind of in Mayor Welch's terms, to some kind of nominal step to limit the ongoing riding around on Sunrunner. We did some additional reconnaissance ourselves. Our Chief Operating Officer, James Bradford, rode the Sunrunner out himself at midnight on last Thursday. Identified this phenomenon happening. Individuals riding, walking over the dunes and having a lovely night on the beach and then coming back. And that seems to be confirmed. You know, it's a very, very challenging issue because, you know, again, it is not, and I kept telling the sheriff this, it is not illegal. It's not a violation of any law to ride PSA buses. And it's my job to make sure I get as many people to ride the bus as possible. And it's okay, even if you don't have a house, to ride PSDA and certainly go to the public beach during the day. That is okay. It's also not, I did not feel comfortable implementing any kind of program where I had to have our employees trying to identify people who were riding public transportation for some kind of feature other than that they get to ride wherever they get to ride. We couldn't do that. And so the program that we have settled on, after all those discussions, after talking with Mayor Welch and Sheriff Galtieri, and again, Sheriff Galtieri said, because I said, the board has voted to have free fares until November 1st. We're going to study to see if this sort of security effort can reduce it over the next 8 weeks and see if that works. He said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I cannot afford my deputies on this detail for that long. You must implement a fare, Brad, on Sunrunner by August 15th, which was Monday, which was yesterday. Or else I'm gonna come to you, the PSA board, and force, make a big thing about how Sunrunner needs to be either eliminated or changed dramatically, because we can't have this. After speaking with Mayor Welch, then we came up with this idea to try to come up with a compromise, try to come up with something that could keep the vast benefits of the Sunrunner and the fact that it is free, while still trying to address this issue that is going on the beach. And so what we've come up with is a pilot that we're going to try starting Monday. We're just service westbound to the beach. Not for any part of downtown St. Petersburg, but just west of 32nd, which is where Grand Central is. That's why we picked it where it is. Heading west there, you have to pay 50 cents to travel west. And again, all eastbound stations from the beach eastbound will remain no cost, just like they are today. If you do the calculations on our ridership on Sunrunner, it's something like 90-some% of Sunrunner riders will never have to pay. Will never have to pay because they're getting on and off Sunrunner in downtown St. Petersburg.
Right.
And this is something consistent that our staff has done for years with the Central Avenue Trolley. The Central Avenue Trolley is very similar to this operation. So I think it is doable. I'm not 100% sure that it will, well, I'm pretty sure that it will not completely stop unhoused folks from riding PSDA. You know, I don't think that's likely, and the sheriff knows that. This is part of the solution. We're gonna try it and see if it works.
I just like, I want to fully understand this.
Yeah.
And so individuals that, and this includes everybody, not just, folks that are unhoused, but anybody that boards at that station, that particular station, and all the other stations westbound will need to tap. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's gonna.
There are 4 stations in St. Petersburg, and then 4 stations outside of St. Petersburg before you get to the beach.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's gonna take some education to the,
Yeah.
to our
Again,
riders.
one thing that a lot of folks have asked me and don't realize, it's not like a regular bus. It's not like a regular public transit bus, where there is no cash.
Right.
You can't pay cash.
Right.
So the amount of money, in my estimation, and to sort of the Mayor Welch's idea, the amount of money doesn't really matter. It is the feature that you have to have a Flamingo, you have to have acquired a Flamingo card, or you have to have downloaded the app, or you have to have a credit card, or debit card. And it's a very low price. It didn't really seem to matter to me what it was.
I totally get the pricing and all that,
Yeah.
and, this is something that's unique, that's gonna be implemented very quickly,
And the idea on enforcing is sort of like other transit systems you might have been on, like a train, where we're gonna have, it's not necessarily the driver, because you can get on the back door as well with Sunrunner. It's like more like a train, where we're gonna have inspectors, either our own employees, drivers off the extra board, or our extra drivers, wearing yellow vests, or the allied security folks that are already at Grand Central. They're gonna go over there, and on a random basis, they're gonna go onto the bus, and they're gonna say, okay, show me your card. Everyone, kind of like a conductor says, tickets please, they're gonna say, cards please, and you have to show that you have a Flamingo card, or a UPass, or a credit card. And he or she's gonna walk up and down the aisle, make sure everyone has that, and if they don't, they're gonna ask you to get off. We're gonna have to see how this works. Greg Bracken is back there staring at me, and he's hoping he's got it right. He's the Director of Transportation to implement this, but,
I totally understand how it works, having, we go to Portland, we go
yeah.
to Seattle, and you tap to pay, they have corrals, so on and so forth. And I just wish it were different, but it is what it is, and,
Yeah.
I just wanted to really be enlightened on it, is what it boils down to.
Why'd we come up with 50 cents? Or not, maybe not $1. Why did we just come up with 50 cents? Who came up with it, you?
I came up with start, see how it
I was
goes.
just curious.
Well, the goal
somebody
here is, I
told me.
can see, is to mitigate the amount of individuals that are writing, the homeless, homeless or unhoused individuals that are writing. And that way that it's gonna be accomplished is by, charging a fare for that. And there's no cash.
But with a fare, that eliminates the sort of maybe deliberate or not deliberate sort of profiling that maybe an employee would have to do. They're just checking everybody's fare,
Right.
every equally.
All right, I'll be interested to see how it goes.
Chair.
How long do we think it's gonna be until the homeless figure out they can just go downtown?
You mean walk half a mile
Right.
east?
Well,
I'm
just
gonna go with-
kidding.
I'm gonna go with they probably already have.
They will.
Right, yeah,
They
I
will.
mean, just.
So if I may, I'm
That's why you have to
dead
check on
set
those.
against the 50-cent fare in implementing this. One reason is I don't think it's hard as soon as one person who figures out that you can walk just half a mile east, then everyone's gonna know. So we're gonna be changing that. I don't think it does well for the look of Sunrunner and the education of our current riders, who are going to have to, within 8 minutes, figure out like, okay, now I need to have something else to do this. We have 2 months, 2.5 months, until we are going to implement full fares. I realize it's in the city's budget. I realize that we're talking about it. I'm not in favor of it. I think we owe it to ourselves as a organization to charge a fare and see what those numbers are. To Commissioner Scott's point, if we do have 100,000 riders a month, if 70% of them remain, and if we only get the 81 cents average per ride, that's $670,000 a year, not $200,000 a year. So I've always said from the beginning of the fare free that we owe it to ourselves to have a fair window where we charge and see, and which was better. How did our community work? I think that solves the problem even more so. I think it gives us time to market it to normal riders who are going to use the service, market it to out-of-town folks that might want to come in and use the Sunrunner as well. So I think it's, I understand that the sheriff's not pleased. I also understand that that's the job he signed up for, was dealing with infractions and issues in the county, regardless of where they happen. I realize there's other police jurisdictions, I'm not trying to overstep, but I think that this solves you said also that looking at the data, that the crime necessarily, I realized that there was an increase in crime, but not crime related to homelessness, right? There were other crimes that were happening that weren't necessarily related to those individuals. And so, yes, it would decrease the amount of homeless folks on the beach, potentially, I should say. It won't actually do it. We're hoping that it will. But we've already admitted that there's not necessarily a change in crime, so I think it's trying to, it doesn't solve any problems, but it creates a whole bunch when we're only 2 months away from implementing a well-thought-out process to charge fares. And I also don't know how it fits with our FTA agreement. Like, we don't have a retail network. I thought in our application to the feds that we were gonna have an opportunity for people to get cards, and so I don't know if we run afoul of that. I just, it's getting crammed down in a very short period of time when we already have a solution coming. And so I'm dead set against it and would be willing to make a motion to not charge a fare. To keep it fare-free until we implement our fare policy that we already have voted on.
Okay, and, oh, you go ahead.
I agree. And then we're spending money and putting our employees in a different position than they should be on a bus, having them do security or having them have to approach people. That's not our job. That's not our employees' jobs. And I don't feel, you know, that's why we have cell phones and they call the police if they need assistance or so forth. It's not, I just don't feel that we should be putting them in that position. But secondly, how much money are we spending to put these people riding our employees riding the buses to keep, you know, to do this job, that's not their job, but how much money is that costing?
Probably time and a half.
Right, so.
No, that is no net additional money. They are already on the clock.
But are they being taken from where their position that they normally do and being put on the Sunrunner?
Yes,
Okay,
they
so
are,
we're-
but
yeah.
that at least has been
So that
reported to me as doable.
expense is gonna go towards the Sunrunners budget, not the budget that they were originally hired for. Because that's Sunrunners using them, not us. And that's beyond me. I just don't agree with doing that. I don't believe in putting people in that position. And I think that we're saying homeless people,
But they-
and I
they're
get
gonna
it,
do
but
that
there's
for
a
the
lot of
welfare,
people that
their
are
membership.
homeless that, you know, I think it's just that people are breaking the law by doing what they're doing, and that's what the police are for. So if they're riding the bus out there and that's what they're doing, then it gets handled where they're breaking the law, not on the Sunrunner. And I think that if we need to implement and have an emergency meeting that we charge fees sooner than October 1st, then we do that, because we have the capability. But on the Sunrunner now, are they not able, how are they gonna do the fees? And if St. Pete wants to figure out some kind of program, would they implement a card that you're a resident and here's your free card courtesy of the city of St. Pete and you tap it? Okay, let the city of St. Pete figure out a way to fund that without us having to be the police. You know, I mean, the city of St. Pete can figure out something with funding that way for their citizens that they want to continue to use, or however they want to do it. But I don't agree, and if we have to have an emergency session to implement it sooner than October 1st, if we think that's gonna solve the problem, then we do.
There's no incremental, there has been a plan to have fare inspectors or staff randomly inspect the fares on Sunrunner from the beginning, from the application to FTA. That's the way bus rapid transit systems work, is that you can get them on both doors, you have to tap to ride Sunrunner. It's different than a regular bus, and that we need some kind of way to enforce the fare. The bus operator, unlike a regular bus, is not responsible for enforcing the fare on Sunrunner. So we need another person, and so that has been planned all along. So yes, we're implementing it a little earlier than we thought, but it was always planned.
Well,
All go,
Mr.
go.
Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Patty, I stole a lot of my thunder there, but the main point I wanted to make was, do we need to accelerate that? You know, was it November 1st? Was it?
November 1st.
Yeah, do we need to look at, October 1 or September 15? Do we need to try to accelerate that process? I'm worried we're creating sort of a separate standard here, a stopgap. It's not really even a stopgap measure, because they probably already figured out they can walk a half mile away and get on the bus for free. So I don't really see where this is gonna, we're doing this whole thing, it's not really gonna solve a lot, I don't believe. So I would think that maybe we should just consider accelerating that process. And, because I do, think that ultimately, I believe, is gonna be the solution. And the sheriff, I mean, yeah, he signed up for that job, but suddenly he's got this new thing he's got to deal with that's caused by an action that this agency has taken. So, and we're in budget discussions with the sheriff right now. And he's asking for a whole lot of money, so I don't want him to ask for any more.
Mr. Chair, I want to come back to what Josh had to say there also about the fair media, the tap cards. And I know we had this discussion in January, and then that kind of fell through, but there are paper tap cards that can be purchased. They try them.
Yes, Al is working on that.
And where are, we've been working on it for quite a while. How close are we to maybe having this happen?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Al Burns. We have been in discussions with Innit, the regional fare collection provider. I don't want to give you an accurate answer on that, so I'd have to check with them and see exactly where they're at. I know that we meet weekly from a regional perspective, but I haven't attended those meetings in a couple months. So what I would like is I could provide that answer by the time the board meeting comes and give you an accurate answer.
Yeah, because I'm kind of compared to TriMet, and you're very familiar with TriMet. You know, I'm looking at their, just yesterday, I was looking at their outlets, and there's hundreds of outlets that, you know, people can pick up a fare card, and with the Flamingo, we're restricted to like 4 places, you know, here, and then the 3,
Yes.
yeah, and that makes it rough, for individuals to get the Flamingo. So, yeah, I sure wish we could get something going with that.
Just
Yeah. All right, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple comments. First of all, $200,000 from St. Pete Commission's not gonna be enough for financing the Sunrunner. As Mr. Schuman said, it's around $600,000 in income to the PSTA. And I've been dealing with elected officials at the beach, being with the Suncoast League of Cities and the Florida League of Cities, and they're actually calling Sunrunner a bum runner. Been getting that kind of feedback last week, and I just wanted to share that with you guys, that they are very upset that this is free. I truly believe the solution or helping is what Commissioner Scott just said, and we should speed this up. Maybe we should go October 1st or September 15th to implement fees on the Sunrunner and start getting that income, and I believe that's gonna be a solution to solve this problem. Just wanted to share that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just one other thing too, for the residents on St. Pete Beach, I mean, the people that live there, so it's just, I've heard that term too, the bum runner, and that's affecting the quality of life for the people that live in St. Pete Beach. And we also gotta remember too, that tourism is the #1 industry we have here. So if the tourists are leaving with the feeling that, wow, we've got, you know, homeless walking around down there, or what, perceived or real or whatever, I mean, we can't have them walking away with a bad taste in their mouth and not wanting to come back. So there's a greater economic issue here that we have to be conscious of.
Mr. Schulman, but we'd like to wrap this up, if we could.
Oh, we still got 25 minutes. So, yeah, I don't know if I don't know how much of a quality of life issue it is. If we're talking about people riding the bus at midnight, 11 o'clock, and then getting up and riding it back at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how many of those residents are deciding to go for a 2 o'clock in the morning walk on the beach. So I'm a little troubled with the people are creating an argument that rings true, but isn't, right? You know, so my concern would be the level of crime, additional crime happening in those communities. That affects quality of life. I don't, you know, see guests of our beach. Certainly, we're also, it's summer, it's hot, right? So we're not in our prime tourist season. We're gonna have fairs by that time. So I'm not sure it's really affecting that. What I'd also like to know is how many arrests have been made, right? So we just mentioned, I mentioned, you know,
We
you can
have
walk
that
half a mile
information.
east of, walk half a mile east and find that you can take the Sunrunner for free.
No, that is not true, sir. I'm sorry, that is incorrect.
So if
Starting
you-
on Monday, if you are heading westbound, past 32nd, you will be asked, you will have to tap a card. and
Okay,
pay
so if you
50
get on
cents.
earlier than if an inspector on
Yeah.
66th
It's gonna make
Street
you
says
get off
something.
if you didn't pay.
Okay, so fair enough. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes,
but
you're
the-
right, the unhoused and other individuals might say, oh, I can walk over there. They're still gonna be charged. If they wanna
Understood.
go to the beach.
And I appreciate the
They wanna go to
clarification
downtown
that
St.
it's
Pete,
not,
it'll be
since
free.
it's not being collected when they get on.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that clarification. But the notion of what I was saying is the communication between individuals riding the bus works also for the arrest, right? So as people are being arrested and removed from the beach, I suspect that they're talking amongst themselves and learning that they can't do that unless they want to get arrested, right? So we have to allow that communication process, that this is not, from a law enforcement standpoint, to work. I think accelerating our timetable, how that communicates to our retail riders and our normal riders, access to cards. We have a timetable laid out. It's 2.5 months. I would just assume keep our timetable and ask the sheriff to work with us for the next couple of months while we're doing this. We're getting into hurricane season. There's going to be even less travel out to the beach as those sorts of things start to occur.
He has
I
no
think this
general
create-
willingness to do that. I've asked him. I've told him. I'll give you his number. You can ask him.
Well, and you know, maybe, you know, him coming down to the board meeting and sharing those thoughts. But did you say how many arrests there were so far? Do we know?
Yeah, well, I have that data. I have that data by week.
There's quite a few.
Well,
So this is not all.
That is a citizen's analysis.
Right, like, so this, like, child abuse was not necessarily due to forgery, was not necessarily due to homelessness, right? So, you know, I'd like to see a list of crimes, not even that, I don't really, what I'm interested in is the number of people that have been trespassed and then arrested on the beach. Because we're talking about a system here that's going to affect, with very limited marketing and communication to our riders, it's gonna affect 100,000 riders a month.
It'll only affect very few,
But
not
there's also-
100,000 riders a month.
But there is the perception of what changes are happening, difficulties, feedback that we're gonna get from the community. There's gonna be people posting, I couldn't get on the Sunrunner, or I didn't have this, or because we don't have a time frame to market, explain, educate the public about the change. We're going to be affecting a lot more people than I think this solves, and we're already, you know, we're already on a path to get there already. So, you know, I'd be thrilled to hear from the sheriff as to, you know, what the specific troubles in St. Pete Beach and how he doesn't have the ability to man that or staff that. But like you said, it's not necessarily our job, and I think this creates more problems than it solves.
Yes, sir.
I have the information that you were asking about, and I apologize. Like I said, we're working, the car provider and Enid are working diligently. The cars are due to arrive here in October. They'll be sold at our terminals at various outlets like Amscott, St. Anthony's, and through bulk sales. And I think the project is on schedule. I think we're looking at starting at the end of October, like I said, and we have approximately 100,000 cars.
And who will be our outlets? Will still be like CVS?
CVS, Amscott.
Is Walgreens?
I don't know the specifics of all the retail.
Yeah, I'd really like to see us expand that's possible.
Yes, sir.
You know, that the outlets where they can be picked up. I think it's important, because not everybody has a debit card or credit card.
I know we're looking at various options of making it so.
That's okay.
Brad, just for my own clarification, is the board has voted to keep fares free until November 1. Do you, the staff, have the authority to implement a fee?
We do. With this pilot that we're implementing proposed for a month, we do have that authority.
Okay.
Now, if the city of St. Petersburg provides some funding and we do a longer-term amendment to our fare, then that would go before the board, certainly.
Right now, we've had lengthy discussion on this as information. And right now, I guess, is where we'll stay unless I'm hearing something else from this man.
I have a quick one. So do you send out an email to all of the boards saying that we're doing this program starting Monday, or whatever date it
Yeah.
was?
Yeah.
Was
We all
it-
got it.
I just
And
sent
that
somebody an email, because I haven't gotten those emails.
Yeah, it
You
came
get the
in,
email?
Saturday.
I got mine
Brad sent
Friday.
it on Saturday.
Friday.
At midnight?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would like to make a motion that we do not implement this, at least until we have an opportunity to bring it to the full board next week.
Mr. Chair, this is an information item.
Well, no, it was
And-
actually an
and
agenda
Brad
item.
already said that he's gotta do it because of the sheriff, is that correct?
Yes.
So it's gonna happen anyways.
So
So
the
this is
sheriff
a- this
doesn't
is
have
an
policy
information item,
control
it's a dead issue.
over PSTA.
It's dead. You can make a motion at the board meeting, but you can't make a motion here. It's an information item only.
It's not information item. It was, Mr. Cox added it as an agenda item earlier on.
And under information.
Well.
Committees don't really have any authority at all. I mean, it would have to go to the board.
Right, it's gotta go to the board.
But given that this is supposed to start Monday,
Yeah, it's fine.
right, and our board meeting's on Wednesday, I think it makes sense to have a more complete conversation at the board level, because this is, it is against what the board voted, which was to keep fairs free until November 1st. There are a lot of different moving parts that involve different community partners.
Not to get ahead, Brad, but is staff prepared to, if something comes up Wednesday and the board wants to speed up the implementation of fairs from November 1 to October 1, September 15, would staff be prepared in ability to do that? Is your marketing team, are they in a position to start working on that? What does that do to staff if we say, we want this, not this item, but we just want to implement our fairs January 15th?
Oh, I'll have to have that answer by Wednesday. I'm not sure. We'll have to look at it.
That would be good to know.
Yeah. The, you're starting this pilot on Monday, and it is relatively minimal. It is not, and I want to be clear to the customers too. I think this is confusing, obviously. It is not implementing fares against the desire of the PSTA board on Sunrunner. It is just a pilot to the beach, a limited number, and it is for everyone going to the beach, starting on Monday. Now, the board can veto it, or they could the pilot, as maybe you're suggesting, or trying to implement the full fares all over the Sunrunner. We can do that. The board can add. I'll try to have some information available at the board meeting on how we might do that. I'm a little more optimistic that this is going to be a positive than you guys are. I understand that.
Well, I'm not liking the way it just snap came around, you know.
I agree. I know.
That was.
It's not going to work perfectly on Monday. It'll work better on Tuesday.
But anyway.
It'll fall apart on Wednesday.
Maybe.
So, and Brad, I appreciate your optimism, and I appreciate that you've been working on this with different parties. So I don't want to take my comments. I don't think it's a good idea to minimize the work that you put in to get us to this point.
Yeah.
But I think there are things to discuss, and ways that we as a board need to implement. And I do think it's a little. I think it's missing the mark to think that we're not going to see stories or posts about this was supposed to be free and now it's not. That's going to happen, and then we're playing a PR game with what's going on with the Sunrunner and what are we saying and what's happening. And this is because without knowing all the facts, but with the sheriff trying to dictate what PSTA policy is going to be, and that is not his role. So I think the board should have an opportunity to discuss what we can do to make that a better situation, as opposed to just deferring to what the sheriff wants. I don't know how much transit training or information he has gleaned over the years to know that this is going to be an effective way of doing things. But it just seems like especially since we have board meetings coming up, that we have an opportunity to address this with more stakeholders at the table.
Well, we have 12 minutes left. Thank you, Brad, for bringing us up to date on that. If we can move on to reports. We can get through that in 12 minutes. Debbie, let's talk numbers. And Julie.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one.
Good morning, I'm Julie Lupus, Director of Accounting. For the month of June, our net deficit is 3.9 million, which is 2.5 million favorable to our budgeted deficit. This is mostly attributed to the netting of interest income, property tax revenue, and state grants revenue, all of which are favorable to budget. Expenses are favorable to budget by $622,000, with unfavorable variances in fringe benefits and insurance. For year-to-date June, we finished with a net surplus of $27.4 million, which was $2.7 million favorable to the budgeted surplus. Revenue was $620,000 unfavorable to budget, driven by federal grants being unfavorable, but helped by the increase in interest income and our state grants. Expenses were $3.3 million favorable to budget and reflect that in most areas, with a noticeable exception in supply expense and insurance expense due to the increased claims. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We all wore ourselves out on breath.
Good job.
Debbie, yes,
All
ma'am.
right, this is our quarterly reports time, and in your packet, we have all the reports that relate to investments. We have a balance of $72.8 million. And if you take a look at the reserve report, you'll see how that is allocated out amongst the reserves. And we have increased slightly our unrestricted reserves based on the favorable budget variance, $2.6 million. We also have our contractual and legally restricted, as well as our self-insurance operating reserves and capital. So the reports are in there.
Are they?
We called it the Rainbow Report.
I can't pull up the quarterly reports. It just brings the main,
Oh,
the table of contents
Yep.
page.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe look, see what
Okay.
happened.
well, I can be Vanna White. We have a, but, while she's pulling that up, and maybe you can get it into Granicus. So our reserves right now, we have, just to give you a little more detail on that, as I mentioned, in our unrestricted, we've got about $2.6 million. We have contractually restricted, which is monies for FTA that we're legally bound by, as well as another contract, about $1.6 million. I mentioned FTA, $166,000. And then we have our operating reserves of $18.8 million, self-insurance reserves $5.5 million, and capital reserves $17.5 million. We also have money to close out the year of about $26.6 million to pay for our expenses that we've got budgeted over the next few months. We also include in there our fuel report, and our fuel expenses have been favorable to budget. As we look forward to next year, we've locked in, I think, at a good favorable rate, and have reflected that within the budget for next year as well. We'll talk a little bit about investments. In the report, once you get it set up, we have our capital projects. All of them are in there in great detail, as well as a summary as to how we're doing actual to budget. And I've got with me Liz to talk about health insurance.
Good morning, Liz O'Hara, Deputy Director of Human Resources. Once Rachel or Granis gets it in there, you'll have the reports in front of you. For quarter 3, ending June 30th, the base plan is currently accounting for 55% of our total claims. Our buy-up plan is accounting for 26% of the claims, and our high deductible plan is holding pretty steady at 19% of the claims for quarter 3. The loss ratio for quarter 3 is down from last year so far at 80%. And some of the different things, one of the proud things for last quarter is we finished up our biometric screenings, and we had 18% participation in that, to the point where we're actually going to have to add another day for next year. So the numbers and the people in the different plans are not changing, but they are continuing to get their services that they need. So that biometric was a big eye-opener for us to have to add another day. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Rachel.
Is it working now?
Yep, it's working great. Just refresh everyone.
Sorry about that, I posted the table of contents, not the whole thing.
Right, I got 88 pages, I think.
Yeah.
Start reading.
oh, there's the refresh button.
So Brad, anything on ridership?
Yeah, looking at some of our pictures. Well, the good news is that ridership was up, again, like it has been pretty much all year. So that's still quite positive. I think ridership on our fixed route service was down, actually, in July. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. I think it's been pretty hot, so, I'm not sure if I know the weather has a big impact on our ridership. Probably the biggest impact of anything on our day-to-day ridership. But if you look at the graph that is in there, the contactless payments is growing nicely. We're going to try to have to promote this a lot. Again, I think it is a much easier way for people to pay the fare by just tapping. And then on-time performance is up, which is really great. We've been working on that for a long time, trying to delve into the numbers, try to figure out which routes we can adjust and things. It's very complex to get that on-time performance for the whole system to actually go up. But we've made some incremental progress on that. Finally, I'll just note that, with school starting, we will be tracking, again, UPass very carefully, the UPass ridership for Pinellas County schools. Getting some survey data, hopefully this fall, that shows in more granular detail the proportion of our UPass ridership that is St. Pete College students, hotel employees, or students. The school superintendent, in between my many calls with the mayor and the sheriff, I talked to the school superintendent on the second day of school at Commissioner Flowers' suggestion. Talked to him and introduced him to the partnership that PSA had. Talked to him how we want to talk to the parents and get the word out to more and more parts of the school district about how they can take a PSTA bus at no cost, because the school is paying us. And what the superintendent said to me was, Brad, every single school board member and every single parent I talk to, when I say that we don't have enough yellow school bus drivers, says, well, why can't students just take the PSTA buses? So he wanted to know more. Now, that can only be positive. I said, I'm going to send him a bunch of data that we have on how the program has worked. I know we've got two huge advocates right here for this effort. And so I thought that was a good first conversation with the superintendent. And I thank Commissioner Peters for making that intro.
Maybe it should be.
Yeah, on that.
I
told
him.
him.
With the UPass program, right now, it's still kind of classified or target, whatever, it's a pilot program. It's kind of focused on 2 high schools, Dunedin and Largo. That's true, and Gibbs.
And, well, my original proposal had 2 parts. Part 1 was UPass for the whole student body and faculty. That was not a pilot. That was just a part of the program. And then 2, a pilot at those 3 high schools only. A pilot program where school students would be assigned from those 3 high schools to ride a PSA bus to and from school rather than a yellow bus. And that, for various reasons, has not moved forward. I told the superintendent about it, that was still an idea, and that we had worked closely with his transportation staff on that. But that's to be determined in the future. That part of it. But the ridership, the UPass ridership, by stop in front of those 3 high schools, Largo, Gibbs, and Dunedin, is showing our biggest increases.
Is there any way you is there any type of logo or anything be put on those school websites? that acknowledges PSTA as a transportation partner, or acknowledging the pilot program, just.
Yeah, I
Maybe we
mentioned,
could wrap one of
continue
those
that.
buses that we're wrapping.
Well, yeah. Yes, please. Yes,
Of, hey,
please.
ride the bus for free if you're a student or a,
you just make one of Whitney's buses yellow.
I wasn't kidding.
no, I'm
Yeah,
serious,
that-
make it yellow and say,
Like
hey,
kids
ride
sitting
the
in the
bus for free.
windows, you know, as
A yellow graphic
graphics.
CSTA on it?
Sweet. That's probably slightly off color, because there's probably some law about the yellow. but-
Yeah, I'm sure that, because it is a wonderful program.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's reluctance on part of the school board, not the school board itself, but the school system, is there no ownership,
No,
transportation sector?
I would, no, well, at least not from the superintendent. I mean, he
No,
just kind of
right.
wanted to know, you know.
Are we
Be
doing a
more
big
educated.
marketing push for that this month?
We did, yes. Well, we had a big push for back to school. It was on most of the networks. But we'll get we'll see
Unless I click
a nice
on
bump.
enough stuff to get it to show up on my phone.
Well, and something that is coming up in September is the PTA, PTSA, not PSTA, there's too many, same letters. Their countywide open house. And so we're working to be.
We're gonna be there.
At that event, which will have, I think, somewhere, what is it, 300 to 600 attendees who are leaders of their school PTA, so they're parents who then can learn about using the bus and then bring that back to the schools so that we can then get involved. You know, so what my notion there was trying to bypass administration, right? Because all of that's filtering then through from, you know, even if the superintendent's in for it, then it's the, you know, area superintendents, then it's, you know, principals and vice, it has to get out. But going straight to the parents, because they're the ones dealing with transportation and their kids. And then trying to teach them the different ways to use PSTA, as well as also understanding that you don't have to go full stop, right? You don't have to go from your front door to school. You can drive your kid to a bus stop. Like if you were at a magnet program, you'd be driving your kid to an arterial bus stop, or use it for after-school programs. That's where I was hoping the education would go a lot further, would be right directly with the parents.
Hey, so I went to Brad because in talking with Kevin, he supports the program wholeheartedly. He just needed some numbers, like how many people are actually utilizing the service. Because he said, who knows, maybe I need to add more money to this, you know, or whatever. But he just needs to be able to say this is approximately how many people are using it. So that's what the conversation was. Just sharing, I think that's a real good idea for the PTSA, which is huge. But some of you may know, if you already have children in the system, the information that goes out to parents and stuff now, the principals have direct supervision over that. So they do the flyers through a email component piece. And you have a ton of them up there. You know, I get them for my grandson. Sometimes you have 5 and 6. They're really good. So that may be something else that we may want to do, is a communication flyer that goes straight to the principal at the schools. Peach Jar. Thank you. Peach Jar is the name of the program that they use. And then it goes out on Peach Jar so that it will go, you can tell them what schools you want it to go to. And then that way, it's a double way of getting the information out there. Because I know most parents do kind of read that to see what's going on. So anyway, I'm sorry, that's all I want to say. That's how it came up.
And I like that kind of talk, because I know that the principals are also bombarded with all kinds of information. There's a lot of pressure on principals, so if there's a way that we can assist them, not by going around them, but communicating for them. Because I know I do go to the school board website and go to transportation, and PSTA isn't even mentioned there. And it should be a little option. And I like the way the superintendent is thinking that if it's something that more money could be thrown at it, I'm all in favor of that. But anyway, obviously a big fan of UPass. So, is there anything else for Brad? Are we all done, everybody? Anything else for the good of the cause? We're gonna move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, next meeting is September 13th, 9 a.m. All in favor of the meeting, being adjourned, of the next meeting and also adjourning?
Okay.
And those opposed, turn the lights out. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good job, Mr. Chair.
You finished on time. Yeah. Well, then on time.
Yeah.
Stay on.